the emotional transition from summer to winter and how you can ease that with Feng Shui. This is my Feng Shui Masterclass for this month, and I hope you will enjoy the topic. And if you watch the recording and you like what you're seeing and would like to get an invitation, there should be something down there in the notes where you can actually subscribe to be notified for the next one. And yeah, but now, right here, right now, enjoy this one for you. So, why am I doing this? It's really because we sometimes realize, like with the change that we're going through, and this one is from summer to winter. We're in the southern hemisphere, so there is some emotions going on, and can the feng shui help us with that? Well, actually, it can, and this is what my topic is today for you. So let's just go dive straight into it. What we can do to actually mitigate that. Let me put up the slides. And here we go. Yes. So this is me and this is for you. And if you have any questions, just get back to me. That's what I'm doing. So everything in the basics, everything goes back to yin and yang. And the yin and the yang is the perfect example because what's going on in summer and in winter. Because summer is the highest yang. There's heat, there's light, there's sunshine, sometimes a little bit too much heat. So, depending on your nature, whatever you can handle, whatever you want to do, this is what we're going through in summer. Some enjoy it, some not so much, but that's what it is. So, it's highest yang. And then we're going into the winter. The winter is the full on yin. It is less light depending on where you live on the planet. You sometimes have really just short phases of light, and it is cooler, it is colder. So that means you need to bring in the warmth in other ways, which we do, but we're getting to that later on. So the yin and the yang are the opposites, the water and the fire. But the thing is, how do we get from the water to the fire? Well, that's then our next one. This one here, the five elements. So if you look into that whole system, the five elements, that is the system that we in the feng shui do. It comes down to those. It depends, of course, which school of feng shui you're on. But the five elements even play a very important role in all the other schools. We can always come back to the five elements. And this is what I want to tell you today, how to use the system to make your transition from summer to winter, or even just from a full-on phase to a yin phase. For instance, full-on project work, and then suddenly a project's gone or you're on holiday. That's also an emotional transition from the full-on stress to now you're okay to relax. And we all know that the first few days of holidays are not what we think it is. So there is a transition to live as well, like every transition. But let's stick to the topic from summer to winter, the seasonal feng shui. So when you go, the summer is the fire element, like I said. And then we're going into the early autumn, the Indian summer, and then the autumn with metal. And then we're going into the winter, which is water element. So we're going from a full on fire, lots of light, lots of action, outdoor activities, and we're enjoying life and we're enjoying the heat and the sunshine and the long evenings. And then we're coming into the Indian summer where colors are changing, where the weather is changing already. Maybe more rain, maybe whatever it is, it's also enjoyable with the earth element. And then we're coming, the leaves are then leaving us, coming down into the metal element. There's an odor of death in the air with the leaves dying and all of these things, the plants receding. There's more and more of the soil visible. And just a few of the trees leave actually their needles on, most of them just gonna be bare. So we have a totally different energy. We have less light, less warmth. So depending on where you live, that can be more enjoyable. But for most of us, it's really a different phase. I think especially with the light going, this is where we all struggle a bit more. And we are creatures of the light. I mean, really, you like it or not, that's just what it is. That's where we thrive. And then we're going into the water element into the winter. And why I call it an emotional journey, I can show you here on this slide, the negative emotions creation cycle. So all the elements that we are using in the feng shui, all the elements have emotion attached. So in the fire element, our summer, the negative emotion is hate, cruelty, impatience, and it really affects our heart and the small intestines. And you may or may not feel that. So this is the negative emotion that we feel in summer when we're stressed out, what it leads to when we're overwhelmed, for instance. And that then goes down to like in with the earth, we start worrying, anxiety and mistrust. And that also goes along with we're having less light. So we're having more time to think, we're having less activities, we're less out there. And then we're going into sadness. A lot of us going towards winter into sadness and depression. I don't say it has to be. I just want you to be aware of that if you have those kind of emotions or feelings, that is within the cycle. That is where it comes to. And bear with me, hear me out. I will get to the positive ones shortly, but I want you to make aware that a lot of those feelings are natural. They're in a natural cycle. So that's why you have to watch your lungs really a lot in towards the winter. And the better you get away with it, and also the skin, your skin changes. You may realize the changes in the skin. And then we're coming down to water. And if you don't do anything in this downward cycle, over the worry, maybe anxiety, over the sadness, maybe even depression, it will lead to fear. And that's what we see at the moment out there. There's more and more fear. And it's also fed via media, via whatever you're watching or not, or movies. I mean, it's really hard to find a really funny comedy nowadays, or maybe you have a tip for me. Let me know. But there's so many negative movies at the moment out there, I find. That's my personal opinion, of course. If you enjoy that, that's totally fine. So let's have a look at the positive emotions that are also going along with it. There's no negative without positive. There's no positive without negative. So the positivity in the fire, in the summer, the positivity is love, joy, and happiness. So make sure that you fill your heart with so much love and joy and happiness during the summer that you really feed on that and not on the negative emotion, on the hate and so on. Feed it with that. And the element, what you can do with it is really sharing the love, the creativity, spiritual well-being, and the expansion is warmth. So use that. And the more you use that, the more you will then come when we're going into the earth element, then we're coming into the positive emotions of fairness, openness, and trust. If we create that, if we have that sharing of the love, then you are more open, you trust more, and you are invested in fairness. So this is how you can create the positive cycle with those positive emotions, and don't let the negativity come too close to you. Then from the earth element, we're going to the metal element. It is courage, righteousness, courage. So for me, this year is a lot about courage. This is one of my mottos this year. And I'm calling in the tiger, but that's a different option. We can ask me about that. I'm calling in the tiger for the courageousness, really seriously. So when you're in the openness, when you trust, then you can be courageous. You can stand up for yourself and for others. Create those boundaries. That is metal element. Create those boundaries. Have the courage to do that. So the element of the autumn is really the sky meets the earth, and it's the gathering. It's the harvesting time as well. So harvest what you've sown before. And then you will come into the water element, into the winter, with the positive emotions that are related to it, which is the gentleness, the calmness, and the silence. That is what the winter is about. There's less light, more darkness. We're sitting more at home, reading, doing some silent stuff. There's more time to really ponder. That's why the worry is so dangerous. If you buy into the worry and the anxiety, the negative emotion of the earth in the early autumn, you have more time. Use it wisely. Use it for the gentleness, for the calmness, for the silence. You know, um, it- the water retreats to the deepest ground, to itself. So it's about yourself. And it's about refinement. It's about using the resources that you have. Our food changes. Our food changes as well towards winter, isn't it? More warmth, more earthy food. So here we're going straight into how the Feng Shui, how the five elements can help you travel this emotional journey from summer to winter so much better, so much more. How do we counter that negativity with the positivity, with the food, the earthy food, with some more metal food? So also the food goes more towards onions and stuff like that. All that is metal. And then the watery food. So really go into like soups and all of that is warming you. A really homemade chicken soup. Great, amazing. We love that. Then what you're doing on the cycle is then you review, you learn. That's the metal element, learning and wisdom. And then you can go into the water and can dream about doing something, planning things, coming to yourself and really doing things for yourself. So, and how can we support that within the Feng Shui? Well, this is what we do along the cycle. So, in the fire, everything's bright, the curtains are open, more glass, more light coming in. And then suddenly we're going into the earthy and all the red, the fire is just too much for us, maybe. So the fire becomes smaller. What's a smaller fire? Candle. That's what we like to do in autumn and towards the winter. We have more candles. Candles bring warmth, candles bring light, but it's a small fire. It's not the big fire like the sun. So we're going into the small fire element and we're having more earthy food. Maybe we also change decoration to more earthy colors. Everything that's more grounded. So the mountain, for instance, is earth, and it's also in going into the metal because the mountain really has metal in it. So it's also about going to yourself. Going in the mountain, for instance, the I Ching means also going inside. It means meditating a bit more. You have the time now because it's the darkness is there. So go into yourself, ponder upon it, and enjoy that, and enjoy that. And then you're going into the water, into the real winter, where maybe it's really cold. So you have more fire. So have a fire going with the candles. You have soups, you cook maybe more, you're more inside. So how do we change that? How do we, and another thing, so really, how do we change that? It's really letting go. Letting go is my best advice I can give you when you're transitioning from the fire into the water. Same applies when you're going from a hectic lifestyle to holiday. The transition is so important. The better you do the transition, the more you enjoy the time off. So letting go of thoughts, of worries. So how can you do that? Well, in your home, using the 5 elements to what you have. Metal is also something is called clarity. How do we get to clarity? Well, decluttering. So autumn is a perfect time to declutter, getting rid of stuff, getting rid of emotions, getting rid of things you wanted to get rid of for a long time. Declutter, let go, less outside, more inside. It really take care of where you're living and how you're nourishing yourself, with food, with books, with all the intake, with your surroundings, with the decorations. Enjoy that. Find the joy that you in summer had through the fire. Find the joy inside of you. During the fire time, we're having the joy and everything outside. Now we're going to the inside and find the clarity, be it through meditation, be it through decluttering, or making puzzles, or whatever you enjoy. Reading a good book, playing with kids, playing with someone else, taking up a sport. To get into that clarity. That's what will bring you through the emotions. That's what brings you through the winter. So the renewal is coming after the winter when we're then going into the wood, to the wood element, spring. But at the moment, we're still in the winter. So preparing for the winter means changing some of your habits, being less outside, more inside. No more big fire, more small fires. And enjoying exactly that. So the more thought you put into your transition process, what does grounding mean for me? What is earth for me? What does metal mean for me? Metal is also structure. So maybe you want to change some of your habits day to day, weekly, monthly, whatever, towards that. So that in winter, you can really stay with yourself in the clarity and start planning what you want to do when you will rise again towards the spring. So this is the reviewing and learning and wisdom in the middle, towards the dreaming, planning something in the winter, to then be prepared for the next transition from winter to summer, which goes from water to fire, wood, spring. But let's that keep to when it's timely. I hope you enjoyed my little journey through the 5 elements, the emotions creation cycle, the negative, the yin and yang, into the Feng Shui Masterclass for this month. Let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know what your input is in this one. But I can only remind you, the better you are prepared for that transition, the more you enjoy what you actually have, because you have clarity about what you have. And you're not worrying all the time about what you've lost, the fire, the outside. Because, spoiler alert, it will come back. Have a fabulous day. Enjoy your transition. Enjoy the Feng Shui. And let me know. I would love to hear from you. Bye for now.